The next round of discussions on the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement are about to get underway. Chief negotiators are meeting in the United States in 2 days. Professor of International Relations Robert Patman joins us to talk about it. Good evening.
Good evening, Rebecca.
Where are the negotiations at currently?
Well, 2 months ago they broke off in Hawaii. There have been some apparently discreet negotiations going on, but the situation at the moment is that from New Zealand's point of view, there's still a major roadblock with regard to the negotiations on dairy access. Now, dairy is a major issue for New Zealand, and the irony is that Tim Grosser, the Trade Minister, some time ago was praising the inclusion of Japan and Canada into the negotiations. It now transpires that Japan and Canada and the United States are rather ganging up against New Zealand on trying to deny New Zealand a freer trade arrangement in the dairy sector. Now, this is really important for New Zealand because it's about nearly close to 30% of our agricultural exports are dairy. It's worth a lot of money to us, and the government has already been indicating that it's saying it's going to negotiate the best deal it can, but they've also indicated it is a bottom line issue, which sort of implies they may walk away if they're not happy with it.
Is this one issue that's preventing resolution at the moment?
Well, according to Tim Grosser, it looks like a very good deal, all except for dairy. There's been progress on some other issues which have affected other players. For example, apparently there's been progress since Hawaii on automobile market access and also drug patents. And it also appears, again this is all based on leaked documents, that there were concerns about Pharmac, but those, according to the documents, that's relatively safe. But the major obstacle appears to be, at the moment, on the whole question of dairy.
Is there any indication of what will be discussed next?
Well, I think Mr. Key indicated that he will be buttonholing President Obama at the leaders' meeting at the UN General Assembly when all the leaders get together next week, and that will be his top issue. You see, one of the frustrating things for New Zealand is that this is a huge market for us, and with China wobbling, suddenly the Trans-Pacific trade negotiations are assuming even more importance. This is a location, the 12 countries are responsible, which are involved in the Trans-Pacific negotiations. They constitute 40% of world trade, and 70% of our exports go to the Asia Pacific. So this is actually very important for us. And the frustrating thing for New Zealand is I think it expects the United States to be true to its free trade rhetoric and join New Zealand in pushing to liberalise the dairy sector. At the moment, protectionist countries like Canada and Japan are fiercely resisting that.
What's going to happen if New Zealand pulls out?
Well, it's going to be a loss of credibility to some extent. It could be economically damaging as well, politically damaging and economically damaging, to answer your question. We were one of the original partners that set up the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We saw it as a bit of a substitute for a free trade agreement with the United States bilaterally, and we enthusiastically recruited countries like Japan and Canada to join it. And so, as you know, from a political point of view, it would be bad news for a government that's put a lot of faith in these negotiations. Economically, it could be worrying because although it may not deliver as much as we would like on the dairy front, can we really afford to be left out of this major multilateral free trade agreement, which could be worth, even without a particularly good deal on dairy, as much as $1 billion extra for New Zealand a year? So there's lots of things that have got to be thought through here. But I think, to answer your question, economically and politically it could be very damaging for the government if the talks collapse.
And just one last quick question. Does the government appear to be softening under public opposition to this?
Well, that's an interesting interpretation. It could be, but I think there's another issue here. I think there's a game of bluff going on. I think Mr. Key and the New Zealand government are saying to the Americans and the other partners, look, these talks could collapse. And for the Americans, this is a big issue because they've got the presidential elections coming. Mr. Obama needs to close the deal before the end of the year, and Mr. Key may be sort of trying to put pressure given the knowledge of that reality.
Professor of International Relations Robert Patman, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.